My name is Layla Jerkins. I'm 35 years old, and 3 nights ago I quietly walked out of a dinner that was supposed to be our date night and never went back. I didn't slam a door. I didn't cry in the bathroom. I didn't cause a scene. I paid for my meal, stood up while my boyfriend was laughing with another woman, and left without asking anyone to follow me. At the time, it didn't feel dramatic. It felt final. I met Fred when I was 33. He was confident without being loud, thoughtful, in that understated way that made you feel safe. He worked in operations for a mid-sized tech company, steady job, ambitious but grounded. Our relationship started easily. Good conversations, shared routines, comfortable silence. We moved in together after a year, built a life that felt stable and adult. Or at least I thought we did. About 6 months ago, Fred transferred to a new department. New responsibilities, longer hours, a new team. He talked about work constantly, projects, meetings, deadlines, normal stuff. Then one name started appearing more than the others. Lauren. She was apparently brilliant, funny, sharp, someone who just got him. Lauren had the best ideas in meetings. Lauren made everyone laugh during late nights at the office. Lauren suggested this bar, this restaurant, this shortcut home. I didn't think much of it at first. People talk about coworkers all the time. I work in finance. I know how intense team dynamics can get. But slowly the tone shifted. Lauren wouldn't like that place. Lauren thinks that movie is boring. Lauren said you'd probably hate this joke. It wasn't just that he mentioned her a lot. It was that I started feeling edited out of my own relationship. 3 months ago, Fred began working late more often. Team deadlines, emergency meetings, drinks after work to blow off steam. When I asked if I could join sometime, he smiled and said, "It's just work people, Layla. You'd be bored." I told myself that was reasonable. Everyone deserves their own space. Then came the little things. His phone always face down. Texts answered in the bathroom. Calls taken in the hallway with the door half closed. When I asked how his day was, the answers became vague, short, curated. I noticed. I just didn't want to admit what it might mean. 2 weeks ago, Fred left his laptop open on the kitchen counter. Messages visible. Logged in. I stared at the screen longer than I should have before touching it. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I don't regret it. That discovery didn't come all at once. It came in layers inside jokes. I wasn't part of comments about me being too serious. Lauren calling him handsome, him responding with laughing emojis and heart reactions, lunches that were work-related, weekend plans that overlapped suspiciously with times he told me he was busy. Nothing explicitly sexual, everything unmistakably intimate. I took screenshots, every relevant thread, sent them to myself, closed the laptop and waited. I didn't confront him. I wanted to see who he would choose when he thought I wasn't watching. Last Friday was supposed to be ours. We had a standing tradition, Friday date night. Italian place we both loved. 1 night a week that belonged to us, no phones, no coworkers, no excuses. Fred came home around 6 and said casually, "Hey, change of plans for dinner." I looked up from the couch. "What kind of change?" "Lauren's joining us," he said. "She doesn't really know anyone in the city yet. I thought it'd be nice." I didn't respond immediately. "You don't mind, right?" he added, then laughed. "She's honestly more fun than you anyway." He said it like a joke, but it landed like a verdict. "Sure," I said after a moment. "Why not?" We met her at the restaurant at 7. Lauren was exactly what I expected. Attractive, polished, confident. The kind of woman who knew she had a presence and used it effortlessly. She hugged Fred when she saw him, a little too comfortably. From the moment we sat down, I faded into the background. They talked nonstop. Work stories, shared memories I hadn't known existed. Jokes that didn't need explanation because they were already a team. They leaned toward each other, laughed too loudly, forgot I was there. I tried to join in, asked questions, made comments. They acknowledged me politely, then went right back to each other. 40 minutes in, something shifted inside me. Not anger, not jealousy, clarity. The server came over to check on us while they were laughing mid-story. I caught her eye and said quietly, "Can I get my check, just for my meal?" She nodded without asking questions. When she came back, I paid in cash, stood up and said, "I'm heading out." Fred looked up confused. "What? Why?" "You two seem busy," I said calmly. "I'll see you later." "Layla, don't be dramatic." "I'm not," I replied. "I am leaving." I walked out without turning around. And for the first time in months, I felt absolutely sure of what I was about to do next. I didn't go home after I left the restaurant. I drove past our apartment without slowing down, turned into a quiet side street, and parked outside a cafe that stayed open late. I sat there for almost 2 hours with my hands on the steering wheel, replaying the night frame by frame, not with shock, but with a strange, detached calm. The dinner hadn't hurt because it was unexpected. It hurt because it confirmed everything my instincts had been whispering for months. Around 10, I finally went back. Fred's car wasn't there yet. I took that as a small mercy. I let myself in, dropped my keys into the bowl by the door, and stood in the living room listening to the silence. The apartment felt different already, like it knew something had ended before either of us said it out loud. I went to the bedroom and packed a bag. Just essentials. Clothes, toiletries, my laptop charger. No hesitation, no second guessing. I wasn't leaving in anger. I was leaving with intention. Then I took the screenshots. I'd printed them earlier in the week after I found the messages. Dozens of pages, timestamps, highlighted comments, circled dates noted in the margins. Proof I hoped I wouldn't need, but prepared anyway. I laid them neatly on the dining table right next to where Fred always dropped his phone and wallet when he came home. On top of the stack, I placed my apartment key, then a single note, handwritten, careful, and legible. Since Lauren is more fun than me anyway, you should have plenty of time together now. Everything you need to understand is in these messages, the ones you didn't think I'd ever see. We're done. Don't contact me. I took one last look around, picked up my bag, and left. I spent the night at my friend Naomi's place. She lived 20 minutes away, and didn't ask questions when I showed up after 10 with a duffel bag and a hollow look in my eyes. Long night, she asked gently. Tomorrow, I said. I'll explain tomorrow. She nodded and handed me a blanket. I slept harder than I had in weeks. When I turned my phone back on Saturday morning, it buzzed nonstop in my hand. Missed calls, texts, voicemails, all from Fred. The messages followed a predictable pattern. At first, confusion. Where are you? Why did you leave? Then discovery. What is all this on the table? Did you go through my messages? Then anger. You had no right. That was a massive invasion of privacy. Then panic. Please answer. We need to talk about this. Then desperation. Layla, please. It's not what you think. I didn't respond to any of them. I scrolled, saved a few screenshots of my own, and deleted the rest. Naomi made coffee and sat across from me at the kitchen table while I finally told her everything. The slow shift, the messages, the dinner, the quiet exit. When I finished, she didn't hesitate. You did the right thing, she said. You didn't scream, you didn't beg, you didn't negotiate your own worth. That afternoon, Fred showed up at her building. I knew it was him before Naomi even opened the door. I could hear his voice through the hallway, urgent and pleading. I just need 5 minutes, he said. Please, I need to explain. She's not seeing you, Naomi replied calmly. She saw the messages. She was at that dinner. There's nothing left to explain. It's not what she thinks, he insisted. Lauren is just... Fred, Naomi interrupted firmer now. You need to leave. There was a pause. Then I heard him exhale sharply. A moment later, the door closed. Naomi came back into the kitchen. He's gone. I thanked her. And for the first time since Friday night, I felt something close to relief. Sunday, Fred tried a different tactic. I told Lauren we can't be friends anymore. I chose you. Can we please talk? An hour later, nothing physical ever happened. I just got carried away with the attention. Then I'll come by your parents' house. They deserve to know what's going on. That message finally earned a response. Feel free. They already know. I told them everything yesterday. They agree I did the right thing. There was no reply after that. By Monday morning, I called the landlord. The lease was in my name alone. Fred had moved in later, contributed to rent, but never officially added himself. Legally, he was a guest. The process was simple. I sent him a formal message. You have 30 days to move out. I'll come by next week to collect the rest of my things. Don't contact me again unless it's related to logistics. He called from a different number the next day. I answered by mistake, thinking it was work. Layla, please, he said immediately. I know you're angry, but can we just talk for 5 minutes in person? There's nothing to talk about, I said. I read the messages. I lived that dinner. I watched you choose her for months. I didn't choose her. You did, I replied. Every time you complained about me to her, every time you lied about where you were, every time you made me feel invisible. Nothing happened, he said quickly. We never. I don't care, I interrupted. You checked out emotionally long before anything physical could happen. That's enough. I hung up and blocked the number. And for the first time since this started, I didn't feel like I was reacting anymore. I felt like I was done. The strangest part wasn't the silence from Fred after I blocked him. It was how quickly my body adjusted to the absence. No tight chest, no constant phone checking, no urge to rehearse conversations that were never going to happen. It was like my nervous system finally understood that the threat was gone. I stayed with Naomi for a few more days, not because I couldn't go home, but because I didn't want to rush back into a space that still smelled like a relationship I'd already buried. I worked remotely, kept my routine steady, answered only the messages that mattered. Fred, meanwhile, tried everything except accountability. He emailed. He messaged mutual friends. He sent long, carefully worded apologies that somehow never quite said, "I chose someone else over you." One message stood out. "Lauren was a part of my past. We dated briefly before you and I ever met. It didn't mean anything now." That was the first time he admitted it. Lauren wasn't just a coworker. She was his ex-girlfriend. The detail didn't shock me. It settled into place like the final puzzle piece snapping into position. The familiarity, the ease, the emotional shorthand, the way he never framed her as a threat because in his mind she was already something known and safe. Safe enough to risk me. I didn't respond. Instead, I went back to the apartment the following weekend with Naomi beside me, just in case. Fred wasn't there. Most of his things were still inside, neatly arranged, untouched. He'd clearly been waiting for permission I was never going to give. I collected the rest of my belongings. Documents, personal items, things I cared about. I didn't take anything we'd bought together. I didn't want reminders disguised as furniture. Before I left, I walked through the space one last time. The couch where we'd watched movies, the kitchen where he'd leaned against the counter, scrolling through messages he thought I'd never see, the dining table where I'd left my key and my exit in black and white. I locked the door behind me and felt nothing but certainty. A week later, Fred tried again, this time through my parents. My mother called first. "He came by yesterday," she said carefully. "He looked shaken." "I'm sure he was," I replied. "He said he wants to fix things." "There's nothing to fix." My father took the phone. "You're not being unreasonable," he said. "You handled it calmly, cleanly. That matters." That was the moment I realized something important. I didn't need to defend my decision anymore. Fred had 30 days. That was it. Midway through that period, things took a turn I hadn't anticipated. Fred called me from yet another new number. I almost didn't answer. Something in his tone when I picked up told me this wasn't another plea. "They're investigating us at work," he said. I stayed silent. Lauren went to HR. He continued. "She said I made her uncomfortable, that I pressured her, that I crossed boundaries." And I asked calmly, "And they're pulling message logs, emails, everything." I already knew where this was headed. "She said she did it for us," he added quickly. "To show you I chose you." "You lied to HR," I said flatly. "That's on you." "She lied," he corrected. You participated," I cut in, "for months." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "They're suspending us both pending review," he finally said. "Lauren's freaking out." "I'm not part of this," I replied. "Don't call me again." I hung up and blocked the number before he could respond. 2 weeks later, Naomi sent me a text while I was in a meeting. "You're not going to believe this." Fred and Lauren had both been let go. Not officially for the relationship that alone apparently hadn't violated company policy, but for dishonesty during an internal investigation. Conflicting statements, documented evidence, messages that proved mutual participation. Their attempt to control the narrative had backfired completely. Fred called me again after that. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail instead. Voice strained, almost unrecognizable. "I lost my job," he said. "Lauren did too. This all happened because I tried to fix things with you." I deleted it without listening to the rest. There was nothing left to say. The final week of his notice period passed quietly. When I returned to the apartment to reclaim it fully, he was gone. No damage, no theatrics, just absence. He left a letter on the counter. I read it once, then I threw it away. Because the truth was simple. He didn't lose me because of one dinner, or one lie, or one ex-girlfriend. He lost me because he made 100 small choices that told me exactly where I stood. And once I saw it clearly, I never looked back. The apartment felt hollow the first night I slept there alone. Not lonely, just emptied of noise that never belonged to me in the first place. I opened windows, washed sheets, boxed up the last traces of Fred's presence. By morning, the space felt neutral again. Mine. For a few days, there was nothing. No calls, no emails, no messages slipping through from unknown numbers. I assumed that meant it was over. I was wrong. The next wave didn't come from Fred directly. It came through people who thought they were helping. A mutual friend texted first. "He's not doing well. He keeps saying he ruined everything." Another followed. "He says Lauren destroyed his career, that he chose you too late." I didn't reply. Then Fred showed up at my building. This time I was home. I heard him before I saw him, his voice in the hallway talking to the concierge, trying to sound composed. I didn't move. I didn't need to. He knocked once, then again. "Layla," he called softly. "I know you're there." I stayed silent. "I just want to talk," he said. 5 minutes, that's it? Nothing. I lost everything, he continued, voice breaking. My job, my reputation, you. Lauren turned on me, and now she won't even answer my calls. That got my attention. I opened the door, but only a crack. You need to leave, I said. Please, he said quickly. I'm not here to fight. I just need you to understand. I understand perfectly, I interrupted. That's why this door isn't open any wider. He looked exhausted, unshaven, older than I remembered. For a moment, I almost felt something. Almost. She was my past, he said. I never meant for it to go this far. You let it, I replied, over and over. He swallowed. She's telling people I manipulated her, that I led her on. That's convenient, I said. For her. She ruined my life, he said bitterly. No, I corrected. You ruined it together. I closed the door. 2 days later, Lauren reached out. Not directly to me, through a mutual acquaintance who still had my number. She wants to explain her side, the message read. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was absurd. There was no side I hadn't already seen in screenshots. The fallout escalated fast. Lauren had been scrambling after the termination, telling anyone who would listen that Fred had misled her, that she'd thought he was emotionally available, that I was controlling and cold. Fred, meanwhile, told people Lauren had obsessed over him, refused to respect boundaries, dragged him into drama. They were rewriting history in opposite directions, and somehow both of them still found a way to blame me. Fred tried calling again from a new number. You're happy now, he asked bitterly, when I answered without realizing who it was. You got what you wanted. I wanted peace, I said. This isn't my chaos. If you hadn't gone through my messages, if you hadn't sent them, I cut in, we wouldn't be here. Silence. She's threatening to sue the company, he said finally. Says she was targeted. Good luck with that, I replied. HR has the same screenshots I do. That shut him up. The final attempt came a week later. A letter slipped under my door. Different handwriting this time. Lauren's. It was long. Apologetic in tone, accusatory in subtext. She said she never meant to hurt anyone, that Fred had confided in her about feeling unseen, that she thought she was helping him, that she didn't realize how serious our relationship was. I read it twice. Then I tore it up and threw it away. The truth was simple, no matter how they tried to complicate it. Fred hadn't cheated physically. Lauren hadn't forced him. But together they had dismantled my trust piece by piece. And now, with no relationship to hide behind and no jobs to anchor them, they were left facing each other and themselves. I wasn't part of that anymore. By the time the dust settled, the story Fred and Lauren told the world no longer matched the evidence anyone could verify. HR's investigation didn't end quietly. Their company hadn't cared about blurred boundaries or emotional entanglements. What they cared about was liability. And once Lauren accused Fred of harassment and Fred tried to minimize months of documented messages, the situation crossed from messy to dangerous. Screenshots don't argue back. Timestamps don't forget. Written words don't soften themselves out of guilt. Lauren was terminated first. Fred followed 2 days later. Not because of me, not because of drama, but because they both lied when it mattered most. Fred left me a voicemail the night it became official. I didn't pick up. I listened to it once all the way through, then deleted it. I lost everything he said, voice raw. I tried to fix this. I tried to prove I chose you. And now Lauren's gone, my job's gone, and I don't know what to do anymore. What he never said, what he couldn't bring himself to say was, I should have chosen you before there were consequences. Lauren tried once more too. A text from a number I didn't recognize. I never meant for this to happen. I thought he was unhappy. I thought I was helping him see what he deserved. I didn't think you mattered as much as you did to him. I stared at the message longer than I should have. Then I blocked the number. I didn't owe either of them closure. They already had the truth. They just didn't like the shape it took. A mutual friend told me later that Lauren had moved back in with her parents, that she was furious, humiliated, convinced the company had made an example out of her. Fred, according to the same friend, had been applying everywhere, scrambling to explain a termination he couldn't fully justify without admitting what he'd done. They weren't together. That part surprised people the most. Once there was no secrecy, no stolen moments, no shared enemy in me, their connection evaporated. Whatever thrill had bonded them didn't survive unemployment and accountability. Fred reached out one final time through a neutral friend. He wanted to meet for coffee. For closure, he said. I said no. Tell him to stop using other people as messengers, I replied. If he can't respect that, I'll take legal steps to make it permanent. That was the last message I ever sent about him. A week later, I repainted the bedroom. New sheets, new lighting, furniture rearranged. I didn't erase the past, I just stopped living inside it. People asked if I felt bad, about the messages, about the investigation, about how everything fell apart so completely. The honest answer, no, because none of it happened in a vacuum. The dinner where I disappeared didn't end the relationship. It revealed what had already been gone for months. Fred had been emotionally investing elsewhere while letting me believe we were still building something together. Walking away wasn't revenge. It was self-preservation. And the cost they paid afterward, that belonged to them, not me. 2 months after the dinner, the one where I sat there watching my own relationship dissolve in real time, I realized something unexpected. I wasn't recovering. I was already fine. The apartment felt different now. Not in a sad way, in a settled way. I redecorated slowly, intentionally. Not to erase Fred, but to stop accommodating someone who no longer existed in my life. I moved the furniture, changed the lighting, bought plants I didn't have to negotiate about. The space finally reflected me. Work steadied. I went back to the gym consistently. Reconnected with friends I'd half disappeared from while trying to make a relationship work with someone who had already checked out. Life didn't explode forward in some dramatic glow-up montage. It just stabilized. That was enough. I heard updates occasionally through people who thought information was a kindness. Fred was living with a friend, still job hunting, still explaining gaps and terminations in interviews without quite telling the truth. Lauren had taken a temporary contract in another city. They didn't speak anymore. Apparently, once there was no secret to protect and no consequences left to outrun, there was nothing holding them together. A mutual acquaintance reached out once more. She's really struggling, they said carefully. She lost her job, lost him, feels like everything collapsed at once. It collapsed because it was built on dishonesty, I replied. That's not my responsibility to fix. They accepted that, finally. My parents asked me one night if I was doing okay emotionally. Not in a worried way, in a checking-in way. I thought about it before answering. I'm better than okay, I said. I'm clear. That dinner sitting there while Fred laughed with Lauren, realizing I'd become background noise in my own relationship, had been the moment something clicked. I wasn't angry then. I wasn't devastated. I was done. The pain came later in manageable waves because the decision itself had been solid. When you know you've chosen yourself without cruelty or drama, there's nothing left to argue with afterward. Some people still think I should have given him a chance to explain, to go to therapy, to work it out. I disagree. The messages explained everything. The secrecy explained everything. The dinner explained everything. Emotional betrayal doesn't need a physical line crossed to be real. He had been building intimacy somewhere else while letting me believe I was still chosen. I wasn't willing to wait around and see how far that would go. I'm Layla Jerkins, 35 years old, living alone, trusting my instincts again. Fred showed me who he was long before I walked out of that restaurant. This time I believed what I saw. That was enough.